Massachusetts. The senator co-wrote the book, This Moment on Earth, Today's New Environmentalists and Their Vision for the Future, along with his wife, Teresa Heinz Kerry. Senator, thank you so much for your time, sir.
I'm glad to be with you. Thank you.
Now, Senator, before we finish this afternoon, I will ask you about swift boating being back in the news after former President Clinton's comments. But first, let's get to the topic at hand. Tell us about some of the citizen success stories that you relate in your book.
Well, all across the country, there are individual citizens without regard to label of politics, Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal, who are seizing the initiative. They're getting things done. They're fighting back. People cleaning up rivers in North Carolina, people who are fighting against incredible amounts of nitrate overload in the rivers out in Iowa, in the state of Washington and places. People who are fighting for new design of buildings in Dallas, Texas. Texas Instruments redesigned its building with climate control, with a better design of a building. In the end, they're saving money. They're making money as a result of these choices that they're making.
And Senator, I think it's interesting that you make the point with these stories that these are not even necessarily people who would call themselves environmentalists in that traditional sense. They just are trying to do what they think is the right thing. But let me ask you why you think there's been so much congressional gridlock on climate change legislation.
Because Washington gets pushed around by powerful interests and by money. And there's an awful lot of money in America's political system that separates the interests of Washington from the real interests of the American people. I think the American people know that. And so you have these powerful interests that just resist scientific fact. It's very dangerous for us. The United States needs to take the lead. And one of the most important things we can convey to people in this week while you all are really focused on this, and I'm glad you are, is that there's a lot of money to be made. There are a lot of jobs to be created. In Massachusetts, we've got about 556 new companies just around energy, alternative, renewable fuels, and so forth. And they're providing an enormous increase, thousands of jobs in our job base.
So you're saying that helping the environment can really turn into a boost for the economy?
Not can, it does. And if it's done smart, there are all kinds of ways in which we actually wind up on the upside. A lot of companies have realized this, major companies. You now have the U.S. Climate Action Partnership, which is made up of major Fortune 500 companies, Florida Power and Light, DuPont, Dow Chemical, Lehman Brothers, others. And they've all come together to argue that we need to move aggressively in our economy to set standards so that everyone in the economy is playing by the same rules. If you do that, then the money is going to rush to those kinds of enterprises, whether it's clean coal technology or solar thermal technology. There are all kinds of things that represent the future job base of the United States. We ought to be grabbing onto that, not fearful of it.
And tell us about the upcoming delegation that you're leading in Bali with Senator Barbara Boxer for the UN Climate Change Conference.
Well, Senator Boxer and I, at the request of Senator Reid, are taking a delegation to Bali, which is the follow-on meeting from Kyoto to determine the next steps for how we're going to have the follow-on agreement to Kyoto. Now, since we never signed on to an agreement on Kyoto, this is particularly important for us and for the world that at Bali we represent the real American interest here, not what the administration has been saying about climate control, but what the Congress, the majority of Congress, really understands and feels about it. And I think you're going to, you see it in the energy bill that's being worked on now, where there are major incentives for new technologies, for alternative renewable fuels. And you also see it, I think, in the increasing acceptance among American businesses that this can actually be good for business, not bad for business. Sir Nicholas Stern, who did this study for the British government, which is a very critical study, has shown that it actually will cost us far more to the average American citizen and to business not to take steps than it will to take the steps. So we need to take them and take them soon.
And finally, Senator, I have to ask you about former President Clinton's characterization of last week's Democratic debate. He likened the Democrats piling on Senator Clinton to the swift boat ads against you back in 2004. What's your reaction to that?
Well, the president's a very sharp observer of American politics. I'm not going to get involved in the middle of, one characterization or another. What I want to do is focus on the substance of these issues, not the politics of them. And they're all capable of taking care of themselves, believe me. What's important right now is that we set the stage for doing something when we have a new president. And I'll tell you something. What's really important for people to focus on is the difference between all of the Democrats and the Republicans. The Republicans are almost nowhere on climate change, with the exception of John McCain. On our side, everybody understands it. Everybody is determined to do something about it, and I think most of our programs are moving in the right direction, and that's what's important.
Senator John Kerry, thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you.